Okay, let's dive into this. So picture this. You've crafted what you think is a really strong, newsworthy press release. Great content, headlines perfect. You hit send, and then nothing, just silence.
Yeah, crickets.
Exactly, no coverage. And your first thought is, okay, maybe this story wasn't good enough.
Right. But, so often the real issue isn't the what, it's the when, the specific moment you send it. The research we looked at, it makes it incredibly clear. Getting that timing wrong can basically kill your chances before anyone even opens the email.
It's a huge potential pitfall.
It really is. It costs potential coverage.
Okay, so for you listening, this deep dive is meant to be a shortcut, right? To help you really understand press release timing. We're trying to get past the guesswork and look at the actual data. We found studies showing open rates can swing by like 30% just based on when you send it.
That's a massive difference. And you have to think about the competition.
Yeah.
Journalists are, they're absolutely swamped. Hundreds of pitches, sometimes every single day. They have to filter.
Constantly filter.
Exactly. So effective timing isn't just about sending it. It's about landing it in their inbox when they're actually receptive, when they're actively looking for new stories, not just trying to clear out a backlog.
Okay, so if the journalist's schedule is the lock, what's the key? What does the data actually say about the best times?
Let's look at the clock first.
Right. I think most people have probably done this. Send something out first thing Monday morning. You think you're being proactive, getting ahead.
Yeah, getting it off your desk.
But then you realize you've just buried your amazing story under like 50 other emails from the weekend, plus all the urgent internal stuff. The research calls this the morning email avalanche. Sending at 9 a.m. Monday, probably not your best bet.
Definitely not. It just gets lost.
Right.
What we need to focus on is that time when journalists have maybe cleared the initial chaos and are starting to think about story development. And the data from distribution platforms, it's pretty consistent. It points to this key 4-hour window. Releases sent between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., they regularly get open rates around 20 to 25%. That's really the sweet spot. 20
to 25%, that's pretty solid. So what happens if you miss that window? Sending too early or maybe too late?
Oh, the difference is really stark. If you send before 8 a.m. or you wait until after 6 p.m., those open rates, they just plummet. You're looking at maybe 8 to 12%.
Wow.
Yeah. You're not just fighting other news pitches then. You're basically fighting an empty office or an inbox that's already overflowing and being ignored.
Okay, the data's clear on the when, the hours at least.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the why. What's actually happening between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.? Why is that the time journalists have more mental bandwidth?
Well, it seems to be a mix of things like psychology and just their workflow. By mid-morning, the really urgent stuff is often handled. Maybe the morning editorial meeting is done.
Yeah.
And they're finally sitting down to actually look for features, for stories that need a bit more digging. Their focus shifts.
And that timing also lines up with their own deadlines, presumably.
Exactly. We can call it deadline alignment.
Yep.
Many newsrooms, especially dailies, they work towards afternoon deadlines. So a release that lands late morning, it's timed perfectly for them to consider it that day.
Gives them enough time to actually develop it.
Right. They can make calls, do some research, and potentially file it before they head home.
Okay, but we should probably mention the little trap within that golden window, right? The lunchtime dip.
Ah, yes.
Good point. The research pointed out a noticeable drop in engagement, usually between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Open rates go down by about 15 to 18%.
It's just the natural break. People step away, grab lunch, and if your release arrives then, it risks getting buried again when they come back and deal with the emails that piled up during lunch.
That's a really important nuance.
It is. And that kind of nuance, it also applies when we look at the whole week. The specific day you send can be just as important, maybe even more so, than the exact hour.
Okay, so moving beyond the time of day, is there a pattern across the week, like best days to send?
Oh, absolutely. The data is quite strong here. Releases sent Tuesday through Thursday tend to get significantly more engagement from journalists. We're talking about 42% more compared to Mondays or Fridays.
42%, that's huge.
It is. During midweek, they're fully into their editorial cycle. They're actively looking for stories to fill out the week or maybe even next week's issue.
Okay, so let's talk about the days to avoid then. Monday seems obvious. Everyone's just catching up. What's the problem with Fridays?
Friday is. Well, people are mentally shifting gears, right? They're looking towards the weekend.
Fishing out a bit.
Yeah, exactly. They're focused on wrapping up existing stories, maybe shorter pieces, not really looking to start a big new feature that needs follow-up calls on a Friday afternoon. Engagement just drops off.
Yeah.
Your news basically sits until Monday, and by then it feels stale.
Okay, so if we put all this together, The best days are midweek. The best hours are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Is there one single best time slot, according to the data?
If you had to pick just one, the consensus really points towards Thursday, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Thursday. Why Thursday specifically?
Well, Thursday gives the story enough time to develop and potentially get published before the weekend lull hits. Newsrooms are generally fully staffed. And importantly, a story that breaks on Thursday has a better chance of carrying over into Friday or even weekend coverage, which can sometimes be lighter and looking for content.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really actionable data. Hitting that specific window, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. midweek, potentially gives you a 30 to 40% boost in open rates compared to other times.
Yeah, it's a significant advantage you really can't afford to ignore, especially when inboxes are so crowded.
Right. Okay, so we know the window, but people can still mess this up, right? What are the common mistakes, even if they know the best time?
Oh, definitely. The first big one is still sending too early, despite knowing about the morning rush.
Right, we talked about the 9 a.m. issue, but you mean even earlier, like 6 or 7 a.m.
Exactly. Those ultra-early sends often fail because they arrive before the journalist is even actively looking. They get pushed down the inbox by all the internal stuff that hits between, say, 7:30 and 9 a.m. By the time the journalist starts scanning for pitches, yours is already buried.
Okay, so too early is bad, and presumably too late is just as much of a problem.
Just as bad, yes. Sending after 3 p.m., most journalists are already in filing mode or wrapping up. They're not looking for new things to start. Your release basically becomes tomorrow's problem.
And if you send it after 5 p.m.,
Then it just sits there overnight, and by the next morning, it's competing with genuinely fresh news. It's already lost its immediacy.
Okay, so we've defined the golden window, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Tuesday to Thursday. But here's a thought. If everyone starts following this advice, sending exactly at 10 a.m. or 1 p.m., won't that just create a new logjam?
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
And it leads to a really clever tactic. We call the congestion avoidance tactic.
Sure.
Instead of hitting the exact hour mark, 0.00 or 0.30, you use precise, non-rounded times.
So you mean sending at times like, say, 10:17 a.m. or maybe 11:43 a.m. or 1:22 p.m.
Exactly like that. The idea is you let that initial wave of emails, the one sent right on the hour, hit the inbox first. Then maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, yours arrives.
So it lands at the top right after they've just cleared the first batch.
Precisely. It feels fresh. For instance, sending at 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday could catch journalists just as they're settling back in after lunch, missing the immediate post-lunch email pileup. Or maybe try 9:47 a.m. You might catch the early birds just before that big 10 a.m. wave hits.
That's a subtle but potentially really effective strategy. It feels a bit counterintuitive to delay, but it makes sense.
It does. It's about understanding the micro patterns within the broader window.
That level of detail really matters. But, all this talk about hours and minutes is kind of pointless if you forget one crucial thing where your audience actually is, time zone.
And though absolutely critical,
Yeah.
you have to target the journalist's local time zone, not your own.
Especially for national campaigns.
Exactly. If you're pitching media across the U.S., a good strategy is often to send around 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That hits the East Coast right in their prime morning window.
And it still catches the West Coast.
Right. It catches the West Coast as they're starting their day, maybe doing their first email check around 7 a.m. Pacific. So one send time can actually cover the peak periods across the country pretty effectively.
Okay, that's geography. But what about different types of journalists? Does a tech reporter work on the same clock as, say, a food blogger?
Not usually, no. Industry work patterns definitely play a role. The timing can shift quite a bit.
Like how?
Well, take B2B journalists, for example. People covering, say, finance or enterprise software. They often start their day much earlier.
Right. Maybe need info before markets open.
Exactly. Or they need to digest complex information. The data suggests they often prefer releases between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. their time. They're dealing with early meetings, market sensitivities. They need info quickly and often have longer lead times for analysis.
Okay, so B2B might skew earlier. What about consumer media, lifestyle, products?
They might actually engage a bit later, maybe more actively after 11 a.m. Once they've planned their day, maybe attended meetings, they might be ready to look at product reviews, trends, things that might involve hands-on testing or different kinds of content creation. You have to match the delivery to their specific needs, and publication schedule to daily versus monthly makes a difference.
So it pays to know your specific audience's habits. Let's zoom out even more now. How does the bigger calendar, like seasons or events, affect timing?
Hugely important. You need to align with the broader industry context. Think about major trade shows, something like CES for tech.
Right.
You don't send your big news during the show. You send it 1 or even 2 weeks before. This lets you catch journalists while they're planning their coverage, maybe secure some pre-show briefings. If you wait until the show starts, you're just lost in an avalanche of noise.
And what about retail seasons, like holidays or back to school?
You need significant lead time there, especially for print or longer lead outlets. For the big holiday season, November, December, you should be sending pitches maybe 4 to 6 weeks ahead. So think early to mid-October.
Get on their radar early.
Definitely. Same for back to school in the summer. If that runs July, August, you probably want to be pitching in early to mid-July at the latest.
And are there just general dead zones on the calendar to avoid altogether?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely avoid major public holidays. And that week between Christmas and New Year's Day, forget it. Newsrooms are running on skeleton crews. Your story, no matter how good, just won't get the attention it needs then. It's better to wait.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, Red, for you. The hours, the days, the tactics, time zones, industries, seasons. But before we wrap up, let's pull back a bit. Is there an overriding principle here?
There absolutely is, and it's fundamental. Timing is crucial, yes.
Yeah.
It's an optimization tool. But it means nothing if the content isn't there.
Yeah.
You can hit that perfect Thursday 10:17 a.m. slot. But if the release doesn't instantly answer the journalist's core question, why should my readers care about this right now? It's still going in the trash. Substance first.
Which brings us to relationships, doesn't it? The human element.
Exactly. The research and just practical experience shows that having real trust and credibility with media contacts can often trump perfect timing.
So if a journalist knows you, trusts you only send relevant stuff.
They're much more likely to open your email, even if it lands at, say, 4 p.m. on a Friday, a time we'd normally say to avoid. That relationship provides a buffer.
How do you build that kind of trust?
It's about consistent value. Engage with their work thoughtfully. Offer exclusive insights when you can. Respect their time. Don't spam them. Only send things that are genuinely relevant to their beat. It takes time, but it pays off.
So timing is a key piece, but it's not the whole puzzle.
Not at all. It's one piece of a much larger PR strategy. It's not some magic bullet that guarantees coverage all by itself. Content, relevance, relationships, those are foundational. Timing helps maximize their impact.
Okay, great perspective. So let's quickly summarize the key actions for you, the listener. Number 1, aim for that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window in the recipient's time zone.
Especially Tuesdays through Thursdays.
Number 2, definitely try to avoid Mondays and Fridays unless you have a strong existing relationship with that contact.
Yeah, generally steer clear.
And number 3, consider using those strategic off-the-hour send times, like 10.1 scene or 1.22, to stand out from the crowd.
Test it out. See if it works for your audience.
Absolutely. Use the data, test things, track your results, and keep refining your approach based on what works for you.
And maybe a final thought for you to mull over. We've established that content relevance and those relationships are really paramount, right?
Yeah.
So think about this. If you can nail down the optimal delivery time using this data, how much mental energy does that free up? Energy you could then reinvest into building those rock-solid source relationships, the kind that ensure your email gets open no matter when you send it. Maybe the real win from mastering timing is getting more time to focus on the value you provide.
Focus on the value first, optimize the timing second.
That's the long game.